I'm black. Just thought I'd get that out of the way, get that out in the open. I have to tell you, I have great friends who often tell me they don't see color. Really? That must be nice. Or there's this one. Damon, I don't even think of you as black. I've been hearing that one for years. It's amazing the technology we have at our fingertips these days, or cars that can parallel park themselves. You can cook a Grand Marnier souffle with a little box in the middle of your kitchen while your favorite Billy Joel song plays. Bottle of red, bottle of white, all depends upon your appetite. But undefeated in history in terms of complexity has to be the human brain with its neurons firing this way and that. So with all the technology at our fingertips and the power of the human brain, the one thing we haven't quite figured out, matters of race in America. So how do we reimagine race in America when so many people are either shouting or covering their ears? Because that does not seem like a good combination. I want to tell you a story about a man from a magical place, Los Angeles, California. A 6'3", bald-headed black man with a Chinese-American wife and 10-year-old triplet boys. Yeah, God has a funny sense of humor. That person is me, and I've been navigating race my entire life. I remember being a kid at the Montessori school, private school, on the playground. That was the first time I heard the N-word directed at me. I didn't even know what it meant. A couple of years later, I'm at a public school, and I tell you, the teacher, we're in Sherman Oaks, California, bucolic, leafy, gorgeous part of Southern California, says to my parents, "What's it like having a child bust in from the inner city?" Well, we lived around the corner from the school. Or high school age, time to apply for college, talk to the college counselor. I had almost all A's. And the counselor tells me, well, you'll probably get into college, but probably not UCLA. Even though both my parents had gone to UCLA, and a cousin had gone to UCLA, I applied and got into UCLA. It was about this point in my life that I realized, man, race is kind of complicated. It's a sticky wicket, and the older I got, the more I realized that I grew taller and taller and taller. I grew to be 6'3", and I noticed the look on people's face when I would walk into a room or in the elevator. See the face of a young woman whose eyes get big and move to the side maybe, clutch the purse a little bit. And here's a point of order for the playbook. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Those are undefeated greetings. So I would walk into the elevator and I would be going overboard. Hi, how are you? I'm not a threat. Anything I could do to lower the temperature, to make that person feel comfortable. Anything I could do to just defuse any potential situation. I'd go for a run in the neighborhood. I'd put on the brightest, happiest clothes that I could find. Whatever I could do, lower the temperature, make everyone else feel comfortable. In 2000, I moved to Park Slope, Brooklyn, not too far from here, to pursue a career in journalism. And I would take these long walks through the neighborhood, beautiful neighborhood, and I would purchase ice cream along the way. Because who's going to be a threat while eating cookies and cream on a sugar cone? But even with all my planning, all my forethought, all my law-abiding, I didn't always protect myself. I wasn't always able to. There was a situation, I'll never forget it, visiting my mom in Van Nuys, California, the townhouse where she still lives to this day. I was probably 18, 19 years old, and my mom's neighbor called and said, she set off her burglar alarm by accident. So calls my mom, Good Samaritan, do you mind going to the front of the townhouse, letting the police know that I accidentally set off the burglar alarm and that I'll fix it and everything's fine. So my mom and I go out front of the townhouse and wait for the police to show up, and we're standing there. The police car comes up, pulls in front of the townhouse. Cop gets out of the car, sees me and my mom, walks directly to me, just starts searching me, starts frisking me right away. And my mom is like, "Sir, we live here." I'll never forget the look on her face, the distress in her eyes. And I'm like ramrod straight, "Mom, it's okay, it's okay." Police officer keeps frisking me, finishes frisking me, walks into the townhouse complex. I cannot tell you how dehumanizing it is to be frisked in front of your own mom. Well, I put that behind me. That was behind me, or so I thought. A couple years later, I got a summer internship at the Fresno Bee. Secured it. I was excited. I'm driving home from Fresno back to UC Berkeley, back to campus. My summer plans are set. U2 is on the stereo. Life is good. And I got pulled over. Wasn't speeding. Wasn't sure why. Cop pulls up, comes to the passenger window. I roll down the window. He asks me directly, "Are there drugs or weapons in your car?" "No, officer. I'm just driving home from my summer internship." Window, he looks in the back seat, doesn't see anything, goes back to his car, and gone. Well, I was able to put that behind me. Or so I thought. Not too far from here, on the New Jersey Turnpike, about 12 or so years ago, got pulled over, was driving back from AC to New York City with some buddies. Cop pulls up, comes to the driver's side this time. I roll down the window. "Yes, officer." He looks at me, looks at my friends, 3 white guys and me, and he looks at me and he goes, "There was a dog loose on the turnpike," and walks away, walks to his car, where he probably should have said, "I'm sorry, I pulled you over for DWB, driving while black." But I'm also thankful that none of those situations escalated to something more serious, something that we might have seen on the news. I hadn't told many people any of those stories until a year ago when George Floyd was killed. And my friends were like, "Wait, what? But Damon, you're so nice. You're so happy. Wait, I don't even think of you as black." There it was again. And I would say, well, that's just not how the world sees me. And I would do my best to say, listen, I am thankful to be an American. I am blessed. I am happy. But I am also frustrated and occasionally scared. And yes, I have the New York Times on my resume, and Sports Illustrated, and NBC Sports, and Newsday, and a master's degree from Berkeley, and a bachelor's degree from UCLA. But that my path in this country just might be a little different than some others. And that if I bring that up, it doesn't mean I'm playing the race card, as if somehow I've invented problems and complexities that have been hundreds of years in the making. I mentioned at the top that I'm a father of triplet boys, 10-year-old boys now. Well, 10 years ago, they were born in Mount Sinai Hospital, not too far from here. And at Mount Sinai, at least back in the day, when a child is born, they give the parent like a wristband or bracelet to tell you the birth and the date and the weight. And I got 3 wristbands on that day. And I'm walking around that hospital, chest high, feeling like I imagined a military officer must feel with the awards and the badges on his or her uniform. Well, last year, I sat those triplets down at dinner in the wake of the death of George Floyd and tried to explain the complexities of race in America. And I sat down with my wife and my boys, and all of a sudden the words just wouldn't come. I'm a broadcaster. I speak for a living, and I couldn't find the words. And I thought to myself, my God, my father had this same conversation with me, and his father had the same conversation with him. And I'm almost 50. Half of my life is gone, and here I am in the same chair. So I tried to speak haltingly about race in America, and my Chinese-American wife did her best to pick up the thread when I went silent. And these are heavy topics, probably heavy for 9-year-old triplets. But we did the best we could, and after dinner, my boys were back to their iPads and Harry Potter. And it's probably for the best. But I was struck at the dinner table and after and ever since that I do not want my kids to have the same conversation with their children 20 years from now that I tried to have with them and that my dad had with me and that his dad had with him. For to reimagine race in America is to re-examine our country with open eyes, an open mind, and an open heart. To reimagine race in America is to re-examine ourselves. Thank you.